What's up, guys? David DeSell here, your host of the Business with the Boys podcast, and as always, joined with my co-host Landon. Landon, you've been busy, dude. How you
Yeah,
doing? You've been busy
trying to.
professionally, personally, wind-wise. You're helping out the neighborhood. I thought the tornadoes got you, but then,
Yeah,
the
that was wild,
I
dude.
don't know if you call it a hurricane or what, but 100-mile-an-hour winds, flipping boats over. It's freaking
Yeah,
Midwest, baby.
that one came out of nowhere and was a little intense for a minute for sure. So, yeah, no, been outside of the storm stuff and unfortunately the passing of my grandma and having to go back home for that. It's all good busy, but yeah, life has not slowed down, so that's for sure. But we actually were
Wild.
pretty fortunate. We came out of the storm, like I said, pretty damn squeaky clean compared to, yeah, one of my neighbors who unfortunately lost his boat and lift in the storm, literally got flipped over upside down, sunk that, and then another
Jeez.
roof of another neighbor literally got ripped off, and then they had rain pouring inside their house. So, it was a wild ride.
Wild, dude. Well, I'm glad you guys are okay. And at the end of the day, it sucks, but
It's
it's
good to be
just a
back.
boat and a dock and it can be
Yeah,
replaced.
yeah. It's good to be back doing some business with the boys pods. Excited to
It's
get
been a
back
busy
after it here.
summer.
It's been good.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to shout out, I had to like read through this a couple times to make sure I was looking at this correctly, but Landjet, as you all know by this point, has sponsored our podcast, and we're very grateful for the folks over there. And I'm reading through this flyer, and for those of you who don't know what Landjet is, it's basically a like a bougie sprinter van that is all modded out and just super executive style feel. And you can use it as airport transport. You can use it to go to sporting events, concerts, business meetings, really anything you can do in an office, you can do in a land jet. And I'm looking at this flyer. And by the way, the promo code is BWTB host. And you can reach out to Rachel at landjet.com. I'm looking through this flyer and it's basically $2 a mile, $2.10 a mile. And I'm like, shit, okay, if I'm going to and from the airport to your house, I'm exaggerating and saying that it's, 50 miles each way, which I think is less, it's probably like 30.
Definitely less
Yeah.
than that. Yes.
But still, based on 100 miles, I mean, Doug, that's the same price, if not less than an Uber or
Yeah.
a Lyft, and you get to ride in style. So, for those of you who
And
are
think about it if you're chopping it up with eight of you in the land jet.
exactly, so and this is valid for folks in Omaha, Nebraska, or Des Moines, Iowa. So, reach out to Rachel at landjet.com. Again, the promo code is BWTB host and she will get you taken care of. But with that said, let's properly introduce this week's guest, which is a very good friend of mine, Adam Swerdlow. And you had the opportunity to just meet, and he's a sharp dude. And he went from, breaking his teeth on selling copiers to most recently he spent 4 years with the show The Chosen as the chief operating officer and helped build that company from their first season to over 80 employees, built out all their systems and processes so they could operate like a real company. And they're doing over $100 million in annual revenue, which is just bananas. That I know
Yeah.
the guy that was the chief operating officer of over
Who wasn't
$100 million a
originally
year.
brought on to be the chief operating officer, right? He was
Exactly.
originally brought on to be a cap raise guy, and they had to, because of logistical things with some licensing with the BS regulation of FINRA, had to give him a title that didn't have anything related to finance in it. And then, like he said, he found his home in operations, so it's worked out really well.
So wild. It's cool to see that you can rise to the occasion and say yes to something and then figure it
Figure
out.
it
And we
out.
talk about that a lot in today's episode. And he's moving beyond The Chosen and launching his consulting company called Alpine Consulting. And he's going to be working as a generalist for startups, and essentially hiring their CFO, hiring their chief operating officer, hiring their HR person, helping build out the systems and processes. So he's a very good fractional in between person to help get you off the ground, scale your business. And if he does his job great, he's hiring himself out of a job and moving on to the next company. So for those of you who are interested in building companies, those of you who are in the midst of building a company, this is definitely an episode that you're not going to want to miss. So with that said, let's dive right in.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back.
Adam, what's up, playa? How you doing?
I mean, I speak to you all the time, so I think you know what's up.
Well, this is the first time you and Landon have the
Yeah.
pleasure of meeting, so I may be subtly busting chops throughout here and there. And Landon, you're welcome to join. And Adam, please toss some shade back at us throughout the podcast.
Well, I got to take it easy on Landon. We just virtually met, so, but
This
don't
is
worry.
true,
I
but
got plenty for you, David. Don't worry.
I like him already. We're both repping that purple shirt, so I think he pulls it off a little better than I do. But he's obviously got good taste.
Well, let's rock and roll. So, Adam, you've had a really cool journey, to put it lightly, and this is a long time coming, having you on the podcast. And with your new venture, I thought it made the most sense to have you hop on now. And I've shared this with you, I think, time and time again, but probably not enough. There's been multiple instances in my life that you've had a profound impact on me. So I'm forever indebted to you, but that's enough of me being nice. We'll get to the busting of chops here soon. But walk us through. Originally grew up in Connecticut, and we met at Northwestern at, I believe, a regional meeting in New York, if I'm not mistaken. And you started off by busting my chops about Boston. Um, but walk us through. You also spent some time selling copiers. Your latest venture that you've been a part of is one of the things that's had the biggest impact on me. So I guess just walk us through from UMass in college through now. What were some of the steps involved along your career?
Well, a couple things. I'm from New York City. Well, I was born there. I grew up in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Number
Gotta
two,
throw
you
that
and
in.
I met. We were both college unit directors at Northwestern Mutual.
Oh,
So
winter camp.
no, not even winter camp. It was just the CUDs getting together for like the kickoff of the program. I saw your lined up beard and I was like, that it looks weak. And you're from
Looks like he's from the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, exactly. So I gotta talk to this guy. Well, yes, I went to University of Massachusetts, as you spoke about, and it was in Amherst, which for those who are listening that don't know anything about it, Amherst is 2 hours away from Boston. It's all the way in Western Massachusetts. So, and that's the main campus of UMass. And so I was terrorized for 4 years by all the Red Sox fans. Fittingly so, after I got out of college and went to my professional career, I always took it upon myself to bust the chops of any Red Sox fans. Little did we know I was going to be the one with the egg on my face after 04, 07, I want to say like 13 and 18. So that sucks for me because the Yankees haven't been back since. But so UMass, went there in 03, graduated 07. I got a lot of crap interviews at the end of kind of looking for my job out of school. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do going all the way through college. I've always been a generalist. I use this analogy a lot. Like if I could be Mike Rowe on Dirty Jobs for my normal day job, I would totally do that. I love trying something new all the time. And so when I graduated UMass, I landed a job selling copiers, as you alluded to, right? I worked for a company called Icon Office Solutions, which was eventually sold to Ricoh. And Ricoh is a manufacturer. Icon was a distributor or dealer. And I learned a lot about life and skills, and where I knew I didn't want to be long term because I could see the miserable people around me.
Dealing with
Like,
rejection along the way.
oh yeah, I mean, I dealt with that with with women in college, so it was part of the course. But I remember very early on they were saying if you could sell copiers, it's like selling ice to an Eskimo. And so I sold a lot of ice for the first 3 years of my career. Went from there to software and did well there. I did well at both places, both Icon and it was called Televox. And the same thing happened at both companies where there was an acquisition of the company in the middle of my tenure there, and the comp plans changed midstream. So I ended up having to work double for the same amount of money prior to the acquisition. So I was like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. So there came a point where it was a real inflection point, and it's what's crazy is that this one decision put me in this seat right here. It made me know you, David. If I didn't make this decision that I'm about to tell you about, I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't have my beautiful kids. I wouldn't have my beautiful wife. I wouldn't have this house or any of the stuff that I've had over the past, 14 years. So it was the decision to go to Northwestern Mutual. It was between Northwestern Mutual and working for CBRE, which is a commercial real estate firm. Yay.
For those of you who are just listening to audio, Adam just did something with his hands and a bunch of balloons floated up on his screen.
Yeah, that was
great
clean.
thing about talking with your hands. So I made the decision to come to Northwestern Mutual. I made the decision not to go to CBRE, and that's what propelled me to where I am today. Which is, I'm about to transition out of being chief operating officer of a film production company called The Chosen, which makes an episodic TV series about the story of the life of Christ. So I'll stop there because I'm sure you got some more questions or something, right?
There's a lot there. So when you were selling copiers, was it straight commission? Was there any salary? Like, what was that structure like?
So it was a little bit of salary. So my first salary was $27,900 a year.
Ooh, high roller.
High roller right out of college. And then you drove your own car. So they gave you a monthly stipend of $200 a month because that was definitely going to cover all the gas.
And insurance and everything else.
Everything. Yeah, all the repairs to the car, beating to crap, going to appointments. And then past that was commission. So I did 100 grand my first year out of college. So I did $70,000 of commission. So I just worked my butt off.
Love it.
That's awesome.
And then, so you had a small sense of financial security, right out of school with the salary. But then when you went to Northwestern,
I was gonna say, I know the 27,000 is more than about 27,000 more than you made at Northwestern.
guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like going from, making six figures, having a small portion of that guaranteed to essentially just starting over? And also, what got you interested in financial services after selling copiers and software?
So yes, it was scary, but I'll tell you, the managing partner probably doesn't want me to say this. Northwestern probably doesn't want me to say this, but I participated in the draw program. For those who don't know it, Northwestern Mutual does have a draw program. So as a career changer, I said, I've been used to making at least something so I could pay my bills. So all I need is $3 grand a month, and you can pay that back through your commissions. So it's kind of
I
every office.
was never disclosed that option. Yeah.
No, you know what? But I believe that if they made that program better, they could get better talent. Because a lot of people will shy away from going to Northwestern because there isn't any sense of security. I think if they took a chance on me, just like I took a chance on them. So if there was more of that, we're equally yoked in this mission of making you a successful advisor, I think they would have more success with people coming over to Northwestern in general.
There's a whole lot of things there they could do with their comp schedule that, in my opinion, would made it so potentially all three of us still would be there. But yeah,
I have a lot of opinions on
neither here nor there.
Yeah, it's a whole separate episode.
Right? Isn't he retiring or something?
Think so.
So the biggest thing was control of my own schedule. I wanted to run my own business, and Northwestern had 160 years at the time of existence and barely changing the comp plan, right? So at the time, that was a good thing for me because I had just had my comp plan changed twice, and I was making less money because of it. So it was kind of a combination of a few things. Running my own business, I could sell to anybody. I remember I was pissed that if you weren't in my territory, being at Icon and Televox, I couldn't sell to you. And I was like, that sucks. Like if you want to work with me, then I should be able to make money from you. And so that was a big piece of attraction for me to come to Northwestern Mutual, running my own calendar, making money the way I wanted to, as much as I wanted to, and working with whoever I wanted to.
Gotcha. Now, you also, I would imagine, learned a lot from selling copiers, software, and Northwestern that's transferable to everything that you're doing now and everything that
Yep.
you will be doing moving forward. What are some of those things that have stuck and defined you as you are today?
Well, the thick skin aspect of copiers. I mean, dude, I was thrown out of offices, and just kind of just learning a lot about myself too. I think that you don't know who you are until you're 25, and I was 22 when I started that job, so it was a big part of shaping who I am today. And then getting my feet wet into the business environment. Televox taught me how to take care of current customers as well as get new business. So there was a portion of my income that was derived from an existing book of business. So it's a lot. I know a lot of guys who are great killers, and they'll go and they'll close the deal and they'll move on, and they're horrible at managing accounts. But I think it takes a certain skill set to manage the account and keep the person happy. Both of those skills, the new business skill and the current customers, really helped me with Northwestern because, dude, you're everything. I don't know why companies decided to do this, but like now they have qualifiers and they have the people that sell it to you and the people that implement for you, and then they have someone to take you over and make you happy after the fact, and then they have somebody else to sell you shit later. Northwestern, you're every part of the sales cycle. You qualify them, you do the proposals, you sell them, you implement, you keep them happy, you sell them more. It never stops with Northwestern. But I think what specifically helped me get to where I am today is the Northwestern aspect of working with business owners. So, David, as you know, Landon, you were at Northwestern too. Maybe I missed that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That's where David and I also originally, met. Was you were what, a year behind me? I think we've established, right? 1 year behind. I
Yeah.
was top
He's got
10 intern, and then I was the number one Gish, and then David was on stage, I think, right behind me both years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's got 4 up on me. I was number 5. Mike Gish the year after, he was number 1. So that's something that he won't let me live down, but I'm learning to deal with.
Um, where was I going with this?
Every part of the sales cycle, every part of
Working
everything.
with business owners. So business owners have double the needs that just an individual does, right? They have their business needs, and then they have their personal needs, and they're often intertwined. I mean, I'm reading David, you told me to read this book, Walking to Destiny. I have it over here on my desk. And a big part of the beginning of that book is talking about those two things in unison, right? And so working with business owners, finding out what made them successful, what they had to do to get to the point at which they were successful, all the trials and tribulations really prepared me for what I do now. And then also just having the finance experience of all shapes and sizes.
So walk me through, I mean, I've experienced this myself, and it was scary and exciting, but you've gone, let me know if I'm missing anything, but you've gone from New York to Massachusetts, Connecticut. Most recently, you were in California for a number of years. Now you're in Utah. And forgive me if I'm mistaken, but I don't necessarily think you knew people in California and Utah where you moved to. Like, what was that like, just picking up your life and going to different states?
Well, I started my career at Northwestern in Connecticut, and I did 5 years there. And just about to the end of my 5 years, I started to get bored, and it felt stagnant to me. I was comfortable. I knew the community. I knew all the places to eat. I grew up there. So I wanted to try something new. So 70% of people never leave where they grew up. And I decided then that I did not want to be part of that statistic. So I I had my dad lives in California, and so that was the one piece that I actually did know somebody, but it wasn't like I had friends or whatnot. I had to make my own community, but I wasn't married. I didn't have a house. I was just me. It was me and my dog. So it was really easy for me to pick up and move. And also with Northwestern, since you're running your own business, you can do it from anywhere. So I said to myself, I'm just going to do this. Like, now's the time. If you know, if I stay here, I'm stuck. And I being comfortable is not a good thing in my opinion. I think you need to, if you're comfortable, then you're not growing, right? Growth is made in uncomfortable situations. So
ripe and rotting or green and growing.
there you go. Right. And so of late with my faith journey, I've adopted this saying, God never blesses me in stasis. What I've realized is that when I'm moving and shaking and kissing hands, shaking hands, kissing babies, right? Stuff happens, man. You never know who you're going to see or meet out and about. And so just making myself uncomfortable, going to a place I've never lived before, to the oppressive regime of California, seemed like a good idea at the time. Right. And so
the weather's nice.
Yeah. Right. That got me out of my comfort zone and helped me grow. Right. And what ultimately led to, success and obviously everybody has their own definition of success, but led me to meet my wife, have my kids, again, another decision I made, which put me in this chair. I would have known you regardless, because we already covered that one, but like, I wouldn't have been married to my wife and have my beautiful kids without that journey through.
So Adam, did you just transfer your contract from Connecticut to a district agency out in California, I assume?
Yep. I went from 110 GA 110 to GA 002.
There you go. Like your prison number.
It felt like that.
Yes, it does.
There was actually a fair amount of politics in the back end. Like,
oh yeah, it's
the managing
insane.
partners got really uppity about who was getting comped for what. I'm like, guys, I thought you guys were really well off, and like my little commission.
Oh, they are. Yeah, they are. But greed. That's the whole downfall of that system, in my opinion, is get a bunch of non-producer individuals who get paid off a bunch of us advisors, and there you go.
Okay.
Well, how's that in client's best interest?
Yeah, we're united in our thinking, so maybe we should have a whole nother segment on that. But
we certainly could.
But I remember because I was completing my 5 years, it was a little bit easier since there's that
they weren't making as much.
Yeah, they wouldn't make as much off me. So they actually moved and they kept me on the old GA. And then once I went into my 6th year, then they moved like contract, behind the scenes. So
negotiation.
Yeah.
So how the hell did you end up in movie or in the
Utah?
film? Utah and the film industry. I want to know that.
We'll go through the whole story. So Adam and I, the first consulting company, Adam was a big helping launch and founding with me. And it was a mouthful, for lack of a better way to put it. It was called the Financial Advisors Alliance. And now, we're running a company called Model FA that has a slightly better ring to it. But walk through, because if I'm not mistaken, you got into The Chosen through a connection through the FAA and maybe their father or uncle, I forget exactly, but bring us all the way back to that point.
So I was at Northwestern, and this was at the end of 2019, and you had actually called me because you wanted me to be a client of yours. Do you remember that part of the story?
And you told me no.
You had left Northwestern, and I was thinking about it, and I think we reunited on. You became more helpful to me in like helping me leave than coaching me in the business. So I had left and then came on board to help you. And I remember walking through some of our strategies, our business development strategies, and we used Loom, which still exists today, right? I still use it today. And what we did was we put our face on people's LinkedIn pages, and we would shoot them a video, and and tell them how we could help them grow their practice. And then we would send it to them with a Calendly link, which still exists today. I still use today. Northwestern did not like Calendly back then.
No, they did not.
Yeah, because they were. This is what I was told. They were afraid that someone would type their social security number freehand into a form, and it somehow would make its way to you. I don't know how that would happen, but so I landed a client in Provo, Utah, which is about 30 minutes south of where I live today. David, I don't know if he's still working with you. He may have been working with you. Anyway, his name is Shane. And like
so good friends with Shane.
Okay, perfect. Like any good Northwestern Mutual guy or ex-Northwestern Mutual guy, I asked for referrals. And so he referred me to his boss. And his boss ended up being my boss's now son, right? So I'm in the middle of coaching him. His name is Mike. He runs the Northwestern Mutual office down in he's the managing director in Provo. And he said, hey, there's a show company called The Chosen. Not sure if you're familiar with it. And this is before I had come to the Lord. And he said, my dad is looking for someone to help them raise capital. Are you interested in talking to him? And he said, I think you'd be really good at it. And I wasn't looking. It was in the middle of COVID. I was, doing the thing with you with the Model FA and still selling insurance. And I just took the call, and they hired me like that. I don't know what it was, but I know that there was somebody else in contention as well, and they offered me the job pretty quickly, and that was 4 years ago. July 15th was my 4-year anniversary with The Chosen. So,
and The Chosen, for those of you who are unfamiliar, like, this is no joke. The Chosen, has gone from, and Adam, you've been a part of pretty much every aspect of this, but 0 employees essentially to over 80 employees, over $100 million in revenue. Adam, walk us through, because you and I, as you mentioned at the beginning, we talk all the time. So I have a semblance of the impact that you've had and some of the initiatives that you've put forth and the things that you've done with the show, The Chosen, from an operational standpoint. Walk us through like some of the changes that you were successful in making behind closed doors.
Oh man. Well, how much time you got?
Got about 30, 40 minutes left.
So, but the original purpose of me coming to The Chosen was to help build capital, or help raise capital, or put together a capital raise, I should say. Before my arrival, they had raised $11 million from 16,000 people on what's called a Reg A capital raise. It's a new way of raising capital that Obama signed into law way back when. I think it was the Jobs Act, I think was what it was called. Or Jumpstart. Oh yeah, Jobs. It was like Jumpstart Your Business Act, something like that. You know what I'm talking about, Lance.
It's the Jobs Act. Yep.
Okay. And it's the Wild West, dude. Mark this right here. There's going to be tons of litigation around this type of capital raise because it's the Wild West. Just wait 10 years and you'll see. So they were unsure, or we were unsure, how we were going to fund season 2 of the show. Season 1 had been funded, filmed, and was just beginning to release. And they brought me in to raise capital. Now, the way that FINRA works, another wonderful organization that's about as impressive as Northwestern. The way that FINRA works is they don't allow you to have, as an issuer agent of a company, so you're issuing the stock of the company, you can't have, if you have a FINRA license, you can't have anything investment or financial in your title. So they gave me the Chief Operating Officer title. Little did I know that's exactly what I should be called and where I should be in my career, as shown over the past 4 years. And I got into the company. I built the capital raise over a couple months, right? They had expected it to take 6+ months. I did it in 3. This, by the way, this was in the middle of COVID. All the state agencies were closed. What do you say?
Would you raise capital with total capital?
We never turned it on, and I'll get there. I just put it together. I had it ready to go. We never flipped the switch. So I put it together in a couple months, and I realized that nobody was actually running the business. It was, someone asked me, what I would do differently looking back. And I said, if you plan to be successful, don't raise money with a Reg A. Don't, because there's tripwires in the future. So I realized nobody was running the business. And I said, if we have any chance of being sustainable, someone has to start building the systems that are going to support the growth of what ended up being one of the most successful film franchises of all time. And so, I mean, I put together a way to onboard people and hire people, recruit people. I put together payroll systems. I put together our finance system. I have a meeting every Tuesday that's been on my calendar at the same time for the past 4 years with the finance team. There was no organization for people to talk to about the finances of the company. I put together a corporate card system so that when we were traveling, you could spend money. I put together a travel system. I put together an investor relations system because we had 16,000 investors. Most of them are not accredited and needed a little bit more handholding than the others. But these are the types of systems that I had to put in place because there was nothing there. So I had to create it all from scratch. And it was, what an awesome time, man. What an awesome journey. And I'm super thankful to the organization that gave me the opportunity to showcase a skill set that I knew I had. I just didn't have the outlet to showcase it.
I have a feeling that they're probably super thankful for you doing all of that as well. So I think that's a mutual thankfulness.
I'd like to think that the company wouldn't be where it is today without the sweat that I put in for the past 4 years, especially on the front end, right?
Well, it's cool too to think about, one thing I've learned is, to a certain degree, like, the title that you hold is BS, right? They kind of gave you one to get around some of the regulation, but then you lived up to that title and you rose to the occasion. And arguably, you didn't necessarily go to school for that role. You didn't experience the functions of a role like that leading up to it. I mean, here and there, as you're building up your sales practice and Northwestern practice and the FAA, like, there are like little bits and pieces of it. But I think it just goes to show that someone who is this COO of $100 million now company had no idea what they were doing at the onset. How did you, which should instill confidence in everyone listening
For sure.
to this. Oftentimes people think that, like, oh, that guy or that gal has it all figured out. It's like, no, they're just willing to try and say, I mean, you're very similar to me, Adam and Landon, where we just
FIFO.
we'll say yes,
FIFO.
and FIFO, figure it the F out. And I guess there were probably instances where, like, you didn't know how to solve a problem, but you still solved the problem. So walk us through, like, that process of figuring it out.
I say working at Northwestern Mutual made me very resourceful. So before I'd even call somebody, I would do 30 minutes of research on them beforehand. And so I use that resourcefulness when coming to The Chosen. And I know a ton of people who scored a 1,600 on their SATs and are jobless and can't punch themselves out of a wet paper bag. So I think just the ability to be comfortable knowing that you don't know, but that you're going to be able to figure it out was massive. Obviously, the internet is a great tool. And by the way, this is before ChatGPT. It's even easier now. Right? You can prompt that thing to death and it will certainly help you. Now, don't plagiarize with it, but it's certainly a great tool to help you and it will explain a lot of things. But man, there was a lot of learning and research that went into it. And I was comfortable being uncomfortable. And that Northwestern Mutual taught me how to do that. And so I just use that skill set into the business. But I've always been figure it out. That's always been my mantra, even from when I was a little kid. Figure it out, figure it out. I never had anything done for me. Young parents out there, as much as you want to coddle your kids, don't.
Thank you.
Easier said than done. But they need to figure it out for themselves. Obviously there are those moments where you're going to fall into the trap of doing it for them. But as they get older, man, whoever you are, just instill
no learning experience like failure.
Oh, dude, it's the best. And there's been plenty of failure for that. And don't get me wrong either. There was tons of imposter syndrome times as well, David, I probably called you. I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm
Yep.
doing. Like,
We both called each other about that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think it's just the willingness to figure it out and being uncomfortable is really what helped me. I will admit too that I was lucky to have a father who was an executive at a big company, and I called him and I said, "Hey, Dad, what do I do?" And he said, "Start reading all the contracts and start with the most important one, the one that governs the business the most." And so I did that, and I learned. I like to say I have my honorary JD just because of how much time I spent in the contracts. I certainly know not what to do, and what contracts not to sign. So it was a combination of figuring out for myself, leveraging and tapping into my network and the people that I cared about and they cared about me. And I think that was a good recipe for success.
Love it. So, with The Chosen specifically, so for those who have not yet checked it out, would highly encourage that you do check it out. Not only is it a super impactful show, but it is very well put together. And it's also really cool to see how season 2 is better produced than season 1, and season 3 is better produced than, so it's like cool to see the progress of just the production aspect, which frankly I would argue comes as a result of the business being organized enough to continue to push forward on and focus on the production aspect. But the show itself is a journey of Jesus and walking through the various stories that are in the New Testament of the Bible. And I remember a couple things. I'll try and get this all out and then give you the mic back. But I remember when you first started working with them, I was always busting your chops because I'm like, you're Jewish and you're working on a Christian show, like, and you would always rebuke and say Jesus was a Jew. Jesus was a Jew. Like that was your comeback every time. And then earlier this year, I was going through a rough time personally, and grew up Catholic, but never really was bought into the whole idea of faith per se. And I did all the things, and but I didn't like feel anything. And one of the first things that got me recommitted to Jesus and getting baptized, which was my own decision as opposed to being a child and getting it done at that point. The very beginning of that new journey for me, which has been so impactful, was you saying, "Watch The Chosen, watch The Chosen, watch The Chosen." And without that, I don't know what I'd be doing right now, faith wise. And that bleeds into every other aspect of my life. So just pause for a second. I want to say thank you for encouraging me to watch it. That said, I remember I called you a few months ago and I was like, hey, like, I never asked, but do you still practice the Jewish faith, or are you in the Christian faith now? And you were like, I gave my life to Christ a little while ago. Or a while ago. I forget exactly what you said. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And I didn't dig deeper, but I want to today. What was that like? What was that lead up? What was that inflection point? And what's life like now?
Let me take you back a little bit. So when I started working for the show, I wasn't practicing. And also I've been a convenient Jew, right? So it's Rosh Hashanah. I can't work.
Okay, well, at least you're honest.
And I wasn't Jewish enough to give up bacon because, dude, bacon's way too good. Like I had shits.
Amen.
I can't not have that. But then I could get offended when people made Jewish jokes. That was really important to me. So, and you get to celebrate both Christmas and Hanukkah. But so I didn't find my faith until coming to The Chosen. And also, David, I want to just, tell people that I didn't hit you over the head with it either.
No.
I think that's really important for people who want to bring somebody along in their faith journey. Don't hit them over the head with it. They'll get, if they want to get there, they're meant to get there, they'll get there. I was going to mention something else. I always remind people of The Chosen that it's still a Jewish show until we kill Jesus, and we haven't killed him yet. Season 6, he gets crucified. So then it'll be a Christian show.
Ah,
Spoiler alert.
Well, it's
Yeah.
out.
Spoiler.
People
I
know that
know.
already.
I'm
So that's
teasing.
out. I didn't ruin anything.
Well, and the
So
Bible's been around for a number of
Yeah,
years, so
it's
it's not a
yes,
real
couple
spoiler.
years. And for those who haven't watched it, it's not cheesy. It's not scriptural. It's literally people having a conversation like this. It's the life of Jesus told from the disciples' perspective. So it's all about the interpersonal communication, because like the Bible reads it one way, but dude, there were conversations like this that happened all the time. Probably not on podcasts with microphones in the first century, but not on Zoom, but sitting around a campfire talking like humans. And so it gives you a way to relate to the disciples that I believe, or that I know that no other media has done. Um, so I was always skeptical about faith, and I never really had somebody to ask questions to. My father was Jewish, or my father is Jewish, but I would consider him more of a convenient Jew than actually practicing. And my mother was raised Roman Catholic, and she was so turned off by the formality of that part of the Christian religion that when we were kids, she did not want. She didn't eliminate faith from the household, but she just didn't put so much onus on it. Right? She was like, "Here's nature, here's nurture. You decide." Right? I'm not going to force or jam anything down your throat. So as time went on, met my wife, been a woman of faith, Christian faith, since she was born. And it's funny, she had always sought out Christian guys because they were the great guys and they were the nice guys, but she met a lot of shitheads that were also Christian. And I was what I like to think a non-shithead who wasn't Christian. So I was like, see, you don't need to necessarily be Christian to be a great guy. So, she had always prayed that I'd find the Lord, never hit me over the head with it. I want to kind of drive that theme home. And then I started working for The Chosen, and I had the ability to ask the tough questions that I had never been able to ask before. And not everybody gets this opportunity, but I was sitting down with the director of the show, Dallas Jenkins, good friend now. And, I asked him the tough questions. I literally sat down at his kitchen table in Elgin, Illinois, before he moved to Texas. And I said, hey, explain this to me. Explain this to me. And his wife was extremely helpful, Amanda, a wonderful one. Was just I was able to ask all the questions, and then just coming along and seeing and watching The Chosen, and not getting into scripture. So for me, The Chosen came first, which was the depiction on screen and this interpersonal communication between Jesus and the disciples, and then I got into scripture. So it gave me a different perspective on the religion. And in 2020, I'm driving back from a meeting at I think it's the Ames Hotel in downtown Dallas. It's right by where the losers play, the Cowboys play, and right where the Texas Rangers play. And
It's very, very Christian of you.
still human, right? And so I was with one of the founders of the show, and I just felt that it was right at that moment to give myself to the Lord. And the biggest thing for me is I'm not in control. I'm not in control.
Yep.
And so I tried to control absolutely everything in my life. And that drove me bananas, drove me crazy time. And so giving up that control was just huge for me. Huge, huge. I think a big weight lifted off my shoulders to know that somebody else had the wheel. Now, I could take the wheel in some shape or form, right?
Yep.
But it wasn't up to me. And that was super helpful to me. So there's my story.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Welcome.
It's interesting too, because if you had shared that with me, like this weight lifted off your shoulder and this and that, and this was this time last year, I'd be like, you're just like saying words. Like I don't believe that. And then on my journey, like I felt that same thing, and I talked to my pastor, and I was like, I don't know if this makes sense, but I feel like I understand this so well and I feel it so much, but I can't explain it. He goes, I know exactly what you mean. It's
Well, it's
like,
called faith.
yeah, it's pretty wild. That said, to not go against, but to share, you had mentioned giving up control, but then you said, hey, I can still take the wheel here and there. A couple things I know about you is that you prioritize your family, your beautiful wife, cutest kids I've ever seen. I can only pray that Kennedy and I, which We're pretty good looking too, Adam. So
Yeah.
I think we'll be good. But
Let's hope they look like their mother.
but I know you prioritize your family. I know you prioritize your fitness as well. And those are staples in your life. And I also know that you're freaking busy, dude. You're always on calls, you're always traveling on set and for other reasons, but you still prioritize your fitness. And you're not super young anymore. I was waiting to share that. I was
Yeah.
waiting to
Yeah. I
share
still look
that.
better than you
You're
though.
you're getting old. You're getting old. But you don't, seriously, you don't look it, you stay in shape and you prioritize your family. Walk us through what you do to make sure that they're at the forefront and work isn't consuming.
Couple things. Another thing that I subscribe to is you make time for the things that are important to you. So if somebody says to you they're too busy, it means they don't care or it's not important to them. So anybody out there in the prospecting game, if somebody says they're too busy, maybe you need to ask a couple second level, third level questions to get to the real reason why they don't want to schedule time with you. But so I will always make time for the things that are important to me. And then with kids, they're only young once, right? Everybody tells me how quickly it goes, right, Landon? I don't know if you have kids, but
12, and it goes damn quick, brother.
12
Trust me.
children?
No.
No. 12, a 12-year-old. No.
Well, hey, whoa. It's a possibility.
It is.
Yeah, no.
I live in Utah.
Yeah. You probably see it firsthand out there, but
Yeah.
no, I have one 12-year-old daughter at this point, and hopefully, Lord willing, soon we'll be adding to the family with my wife
Fantastic.
Taylor.
Fantastic. I'm having my third on October 11th. Well, that's the due date, but I don't know. It'll be a third.
Oh, that's
girl.
my dad's birthday.
There you go. All right, I'll take it.
Nice.
And so just knowing that it's such a short window and then it's gone, right? Life happens so quick. I feel like I'm always trying to get to nap time, but then I have to live in the moment and really enjoy the time that we spend together. But always making time for the things that are important to you. And if you're not making time, then that means it's not important to you. And whether you do that subliminally or consciously, or I should say consciously or unconsciously, it's going to show itself. So if you try to work out at my old times, like when I was young and single, and I'd go to the gym at 5 p.m. You can't do that anymore. You got to get up early. If it's important to you to work out, you got to get up early, make time for it. It's important to you to spend time with your family. You got to make time for it. And there's always time to do everything. You just have to be really rigid and regimented on scheduling it out. I think that's something that we used to teach people, David, on a continual basis, on having the ideal calendar, right?
Mhm.
I still do it. When my wife is like, hey, we got to go to the pediatrician or we're first day of school or whatever.
Put
I'm
it in
like,
the calendar.
Send me a calendar invite. It sounds crazy. And like people get on me all the time. Like, oh, you're treating your family like a business. I'm like, no, it's on my calendar. I know what I'm going to. I know
That makes it important.
Yep.
that. And you don't schedule over it too. Cause then I could be like, oh, they can have a work meeting at this time. But no, just ideal calendar. That's how you do it.
Love it. So walk us through, before we start wrapping up here, what's next? So you're moving on from The Chosen here shortly, and going back to an original comment that you made at the beginning of this podcast. You mentioned that something to the effect of you're a generalist. And I think where I've seen you thrive is be hyper focused and specific on the operational aspect of a business and positioning it to scale and grow. Where I interpret the generalist comment that you made is outside of just one business, but being able to serve and impact all different types of businesses. So certainly correct me if I'm wrong there, but in your new venture, Alpine Consulting, walk us through what you're building.
I'll take the generalist in two senses. It's different types of businesses, but also the roles inside of a business, right? I like the ability to be with a company and go to the sales guy and be like, I've been there. Or go to the finance guy and say, I've been there. Or go to the HR department and say, I've been there. Put my arm around them and say, I've been in these trenches and here's what I did and here's what we're going to do, right? I believe that knowing, having a wide skill set can be most beneficial for a company very early on, right? So my goal is to work with startups who need a generalist. And the reason why I'm moving on is because I was a generalist for The Chosen, and then I started hiring specialists, right? I used to be HR. I hired a director of HR. I used to be finance. I hired a CFO. I used to be legal. I hired a general counsel. So I gave away all those responsibilities. I used to be merchandise. I hired a head of merchandise. So I don't need to serve all those functions anymore. And The Chosen is in a great place, in a sustainable place where it really, I hate to say this, but doesn't need me anymore. But then I can bring my skill set to other companies that do need me. Now, in terms of
Nothing like working yourself out of a job there, Adam.
that's the role, though, man.
It is. That's awesome. Yeah.
If you did your role correctly, you're out of a job. And
Yeah.
and that's kind of something I've had to come to terms with over the past couple of weeks. Is I did do a great job, and that's why I'm finding myself wanting the new thing. So I know I'm capable of so much more. And what I really want to do is help young companies take themselves to the next level. So a company that's received A round funding wants to do a B round, C round, and maybe IPO, right? I can help you get in those trenches and build all the way to that point of going public, right? And then I'll hire the specialists, and then I'll be out, and then we'll talk about how amazing time that we had over the past couple
Hopefully
of
you
years.
negotiate some equity in there along the way before you exit. But
Well,
yeah.
you beat me to the punch, but that's part of the deal, right, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of the deal. But I think knowing, being able to jump into any department at any time, and having the skill set to know that you've been there before, and you worked your way out of it through, dare I say, hell or high water. I think that's really important, because there are some verticals that you could be an expert in, but I don't think that necessarily translates to you running a company. So I strive to work for startups and bring them to that next level in their journey for either a sale or an IPO.
And the beautiful thing, this is for, primarily entrepreneurs listening, and for our audience, the beautiful thing about business is always business, whether you're creating a widget or you're selling a product or a service or you're producing a TV show, right? When you boil everything down, it's still just running a business. And I would say
Yes.
90% of it translates across all businesses.
Yes, exactly. And there were many businesses inside one business that is The Chosen, right? There's the merchandise business, right? There's actual business of the film. There's the distribution business. So I got all of that experience in the trenches, literally in the trenches. And what an amazing 4 years it's been, man. Can you see the gray hair? Is it a little bit?
No, I think you're getting strong.
It's either the crappy camera, some dye, or you're looking good.
Oh, thank you. The latter. Yeah, latter.
Oh man.
So I have to bring up one quick thing, because
Sure.
you said you're close to Provo. Something near and dear to my heart, Adam, is pickleball. And if you are near Provo, are in some of the best pickleball grounds in the United States. So have you began your pickleball journey? And if not, maybe I need an invite out to come stay with you for a week.
Come beat your ass is what he really means.
No, I want to go play. I mean, you're talking a lot of the pros are out there. I mean, McGuffin's out there. I mean, a lot of the pros play out of Provo, Utah.
So admittedly, and shamefully admittedly, I've not played. I have not played yet. They just put in new courts too, right down the street at a town park. But no, I have not played. I know it's massive, but as we were talking about earlier, it kind of seems crappy to me to be like, all right, honey, I'm going to play pickleball and leaving you at home with the kids. Now
you play those early morning games.
I could play those early morning games, but that's when I'm working out, right? So I just got to make time for it. That's right. Yeah, I got to make time for it. Maybe when the kids are older, but I have not played it yet.
I just had to ask and see if you had any connections in with any
yet.
of the pros out there.
Not yet, but now I know I need to.
Yeah, keep it on your radar for me if you would.
I will. And come whenever you want. I got plenty of room. Let's go.
Love it.
Landon, I want to say he won't share this, but knowing Landon, he probably would at some point. But supposedly he's one of the best ones in Omaha and maybe Nebraska is what I've heard from other people that have played against Landon. So, okay, that answers my question. He won't say it, so I'll say it. So I heard he's sick.
You're 2.0, right?
Yeah, 2.5 maybe 3.0 at best.
I
Yeah.
don't even know what that is. Explain that to me.
I know enough to know that.
I was gonna say,
Generalist.
so there's it's basically like the tennis system of rating your play, right? So kind of 5.0 plus would be considered kind of where
Pro.
you start to get into your professional level stuff. So yeah.
Gotcha.
So he's half pro.
Half
Yeah,
pro.
I mean, I consider myself a 4 or 5 player, probably approaching 5.0, but certainly never going to be a professional.
Not with that
That-
attitude.
Test out the skills, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Push
I
yourself out of your comfort zone. Let's go.
there is now actually money to be made in that sport, but for me, it's more just part of my physical fitness journey rather than trying. I've got too much other stuff going on running multiple companies.
I know that.
I hear
Speaking of
you.
which, my hammy just cramped up though from playing this morning. Holy cow.
Well, I think you
Humble
might
brag.
be a little bit older than Adam, although how old are you, Landon?
No, Adam, if he graduated 03 would be a year ahead of me. I graduated high school
39.
04.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm 38.
How's your hammy doing, Adam? You good? You're good. Okay, cool. Got a
Should
thumbs
probably
up.
mix in some water instead of this
I'm a
Coke.
skier also, constantly skiing.
There we go. I can come out and enjoy some skiing.
Yes. Yes.
See if Landjet will bring me Provo, Utah.
By the way, that's one of the reasons I moved here was to be 45 minutes away from some of the best skiing in the world. So,
Not
I have heard
bad.
good things about the mountains out there.
dude.
Have you met Post Malone yet? He's out there somewhere, right?
No, I keep going to Trader Joe's in Cottonwood Heights, hoping to see him, but haven't ran into him yet. Yeah.
Is that his spot? He
That's
actually shops
his home
himself.
base.
Yeah, and people have run into him there before, and I don't blame him. Another bubble that comes up for those who can't see it. Getting out of LA, I think I enjoy getting out of LA for my own reasons, but as a guy who's fairly popular, I'm sure he loves how serene it is here compared to LA, right? And
Yeah, for sure.
your dollar goes a lot further here, so
Well, he's got plenty of dollars, so I'm sure he'd be
Yeah.
fine wherever he goes.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, Adam, last question, and it's kind of ironic because I just finished rereading this book, but one of the questions we do our best to try and remember to ask our guests, we've missed a couple,
Okay.
looking back, Landon, is a
Oops.
book that's had an impact on them. And the book that you chose is Unreasonable Hospitality, where I second that book, third that book, fourth that book. It's amazing. Why'd you pick that? What's the impact that's had on you?
So, there's so many things that are low-hanging fruit, but people don't think about them, right? So, David, even before I read that book, you and I would always talk about what's called give to get, right? You got to give something to get something. That's really easy in my book, or just being thoughtful, right? So, unreasonable hospitality is just being thoughtful and listening and taking the cues from the people around you. So, it's about a restaurant in New York City, 11 Madison Park, very expensive restaurant. It's really hard to get into. They recently went all vegan. I don't know if you saw that.
I heard that.
But
And
apparently, you make a face, but apparently it's like absolutely incredible.
I know, but as principal, Adam.
Whatever.
And if you knew my Adam, if you knew my diet, you know that does not work because
Oh,
I
really?
don't eat a
Carnivore?
no fruits, no veggies. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about kind of going that next level with the customer experience, but also your employee experience. And so I think for the founders out there listening, taking care of your human capital is really important. And, along with your customers, everybody should obviously always take care of their customers. That's kind of a one-on-one for business, but you take care of the people inside the organization too, and that will show up with your customers. And so that's what that book is all about. And I think, David, you and I did a lot of this stuff anyway. Whether it's calling somebody for their birthday, like really easy, put it on your calendar. If you have a book that you like, buy it for them, write in it, mail it to them. Like all that's really easy stuff. The book speaks a lot to that. And it kind of just reaffirmed that you and I have been doing business kind of the right way for a long period of time now. So it was just cool to read that from a really successful restaurant in New York City.
Yeah, it's just doing the things that are when you're on the receiving end, they know are inefficient, but those are the most thoughtful things, like
And being intentional.
and being very
Yep.
intentional about it. So,
Yeah,
well, I love
anyone
it.
listening, I would encourage you to pick that one up and put that one into practice for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So, Adam, if I'm listening to this, I want to follow along with your journey, or maybe I'm a startup and I need some support from a consulting perspective, where do you want to send me?
Yes, shameless plugs. Alpineconsulting.co is my business website. You can look me up, Adam Swerdlow, Swerdlow. I should have an IMDb and whatnot for my time at The Chosen. And if you want, you can see me on Instagram. That's at Swizzy Beats, SWIZZYBEATS, Swizzy Beats.
Yes.
And then, I take all the photos from my Instagram influencer wife, Shailene. So you'll see her through there. You'll see my kids and whatnot. But dude, I'll talk to anybody. If you're having problems, if you want to talk, whatever, let's go. I'll make time for you because it's important to me.
Love it.
Love it. Well, Adam, I appreciate you being a friend. I hope you enjoyed your time today on the podcast. I appreciate you joining. I'm glad that you and Landon finally had an opportunity to meet, and I am fired up to see what you can build now, coming from what you've built and been a part of building so far. So best of luck. You don't need it though. Just keep working your butt off, and I'm excited to see this next phase of your life.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, I think if we can make it happen, we should get Adam out to our next Business with the Boyz meet and greet, because obviously there would be a number of entrepreneurs, I think, that could utilize his services. So yeah, Adam, I'm with David on this. I'm excited as hell to see what you do with this and build it. And excited to send some individuals your way.
Thanks,
and
boys.
he's not shy to travel, and we'll scoop him up with a land jet from the airport, bring him to wherever we're going. So shout out to Landjet. But Adam, and I'm seeing you in 6 weeks or so, going to Chosen Con down in Florida. So I'll see you. We'll blink and be hugging here shortly.
Love it. Can't wait, guys. Thank you.
All right,
Adam, thanks for the time.
For everyone listening, appreciate you.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life. I'm about to come.